From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
It's approaching 8 p.m, Friday the 5th of May 2023. Tomorrow, 6th of May, is the King's coronation. King George III will be crowned officially. But these protesters will be here, as many of them have been since Monday the 1st of May, before the Tuesday raids when 27 people were arrested. Since then, around another 6 have been arrested, so the arrest count so far is around 33. Tents were forcibly removed, property was criminally damaged, false allegations and accusations were cited as justification for arrests, but it hasn't stopped these people who have come from all over the country, some of them as far as Scotland, some of them as far as Somerset, to support the Palestine Action-led protests against this factory just here, which is UAV Tactical Systems, owned by a company called Elbit, in conjunction with another company whose name escapes recollection at the moment. But this is what the protesters arrived to find: that the police had set up a wall blocking the road so that they could blame the protesters for blocking the road, even though the protesters weren't blocking the road. And if the protesters had been blocking the road, their blue light policy would most likely have facilitated the passage of anybody who needed to get through. But unfortunately, because of what the police did, this road has now been closed since the protest began. As well as criminalising peaceful protesters, the police have also told them that they are not allowed to have those tarpaulins there and there up in the trees, because that would be considered a structure. And this is probably something to do with the PCSC bill and the terms used, the vague terms used in that. This is what happens when people do not stand up for their rights and refuse to accept the behaviour of a government who ignores what its citizens tell it. So, for anybody who would like to come and join us, as you can see, it's a peaceful atmosphere. We would prefer to be here than watching the celebration of the crowning of a king, which means very little to most of us. What does mean something to us is the taking of innocent lives and the persecution of those who've done nothing to deserve it by a company who makes an awful lot of money from the death and the suffering imposed upon Palestinian civilians. It's worth remembering that the weapons that are made here, the drones that are made here, are tested on Palestinian civilians, innocent people, before being sold to other countries to be used in war zones as and where the powers that be feel it's appropriate. And we would rather be here because we don't support that. If you, like us, don't really feel much of a connection to what's going on tomorrow on the television and in the newspapers and at whatever local drinking hole you might be nearest to or might usually prefer to attend, please feel free to come and join us. We're having a nice time. We're having a little discussion. We're not being harassed at the moment. The weather seems like it's holding out, and optimism is as high as it was on the first day. So, how long have you been here?
I have been here since about the 1st. I was away one day to the police station support, and I was away one day for arrest and then back.
Okay. And can you explain to people who are watching this why you're here, just in brief language, so everyone's got the idea?
I'm here because it's become really obvious that the government is not going to listen to us if we follow the avenues that they want us to follow. They're not going to listen to us petition, they're not going to listen to us write to our MPs, they're not going to listen to us lobby the government. We are not talking anymore, we're just doing what we need to do to shut down this factory.
And this factory just, I know, and I know you know, but just for anyone watching, so they all get the gist of what the factory does?
So this factory is half owned by Elbit and half owned by Palestine, and those are both companies that sell weapons to Israel, basically. Elbit is actually Israel's biggest military supplier and provide 85% of their military drones.
Okay, and what's the objective of the demonstration, of the protest?
So right now what we're doing is we are just trying to make it unfeasible for them to keep running this factory. We're trying to shut Elbit down.
And can you make any comment about the behaviour of the protesters or the behaviour of the police? Is there anything you'd like to say about any of that?
So the police have been absolutely awful, as police are. The police have been trying to make it very hard for us. The police, when it was raining last night and people were sleeping in the cold and getting really freezing, and obviously it was very difficult to sleep in the cold and in the rain, the police told us that if we put up tarps we would be arrested. When people started waking up in the night because they were too cold and waterlogged and they couldn't sleep, we attempted to put up a tarp again, just obviously to help the people around us, to make them a bit healthier, to make them a bit warmer. And the police came out and told us that if we did that we would be arrested. The police have been awful. They took all of our belongings. They are not treating us like human beings, as the police do. But the protesters have been so resilient, and the Leicester locals have been so helpful. When the police took all of our tents and all of our sleeping bags and told us that we couldn't put up any shelter, the Leicester locals bought tarps that we could put on the ground, carpets we could put on the ground, things that brought us sleeping bag, brought us air mattresses, brought us food, and they stay with us every day and they try and make it easier for us, and they have been, and it's made it so much easier for the protesters to be resilient. And obviously we know that our message is important and we know that they won't be able to silence us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. A couple more things, if you don't mind. So you said you were doing some reporting at the police stations, is that correct?
No, I was doing a support basically for the people who had been arrested to wait outside the police stations for them to be released.
Okay, so you've had contact with some of them?
I have not had contact with them, no. I can give
okay.
you brief updates from what I've heard about them if you want.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be great, yeah.
Yeah. So, basically, I think as of now it's been about 33 people arrested. 2 nights ago, I think it was, when I was doing police station support, it was about 26 people who had been arrested. Many of them were released in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, like 3 a.m, and they were released without their phones. They weren't giving their phone back, they weren't giving any belongings back, they weren't given jumpers. Some of them, as you might have seen on Palestine Action social media, were forced to sleep rough because they had no money, they had nothing, they had no contact and nowhere to go. Some of them were given bail conditions, let out at 2 a.m, given bail conditions. They had to leave Leicester or Leicestershire in 2 hours. And so obviously that was difficult, but luckily we all pulled together and managed to get that to happen for them so that we could do what we needed to do and support them. But yeah, the police obviously have been making it very hard for us, and they are trying to make it hard for us, and they're not trying to hide that they're doing that.
It sounds like they're leaving people in a position where they're much more likely to be criminalised for peaceful protest, where...
The police do not care about our right to protest, and they don't even pretend. Yeah, they want to criminalise us. They treat us like criminals even though what we're doing is legal. They have no respect for us, and they have no respect for our right to protest. They are tools of the state. They're kicking and hitting because they're told to kick and hit.
And do you have any more messages for people, any appeals? Are you going to be here for a while? Do we want people to come along and support, or can they do anything else to help?
Yes, well obviously we want people to come along as much as we can and have a presence here. It's always helpful, to have more people here rather than less, because it makes us the police less able to intimidate us and to outnumber us and show us that they can do that. But yeah, having more people here is always good. We always want more people to come down here and to support as much as we can. And I will be here for as long as I can be as well.
Okay, thank you ever so much.
No problem.
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, no, it's really good. Morale's really high.
Yeah?
I think we've battled all of the elements, not just the police brutality, but rain and torrential rain at that, flood, water. We've had our tents stolen, we've had our house keys stolen, medication stolen, bags, items, personal items, spare clothes. But, we just keep coming through. So I think morale's really high.
That's excellent. How long have you been here?
This is my 5th day.
Okay.
So early on in the moment.
And can you explain to people who are watching this who might not quite comprehend why we're here, what exactly is the idea behind this demonstration or protest?
Yeah, well, it's really important to be here because the factory to my left is an Israeli arms factory which makes drones. Its flagship product is the Watchkeeper drone, and has been used to bomb Gaza and to kill hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. So it's really important to shut these places down. These are often in residential areas. There are 8 factories remaining. Palestine Action have managed to shut down 2 already. We have 10. Now we have 8. and they are making lethal munitions. They have export licenses to prove that they are exporting the products back into Palestine, and they're being reassembled there and then used to continue to oppress the Palestinians and other people across the world. It's really important that we are not complicit in making this weaponry that's being used to kill and maim and destroy people's lives. And the targets that they market on their website, these decisive targets they talk about destroying, those are actually civilians. The Palestinian people don't have a military, so when they talk about decisively bombing targets, they're talking about multi-story blocks and family homes, and people, multiple people in large families are being killed all in one go just from one payload being dropped from one drone. It's absolutely important that this factory is taken down and it's left, they leave.
Okay, and what's going to happen in order for them to leave? How long will these protesters be here, and what is their intention whilst they're here? Can you tell people a bit about that?
Yeah, the idea was that we would be here until Elbit leaves. And that is still an ongoing work in progress. But more than anything, for the community to continue putting pressure on this factory. This factory is in Leicester, so it's down to the Leicester community to come out and say, no, we don't want this factory here. So us being here, it's not just about us putting pressure on the factory to leave, it's about the community joining us and listening to our stories and listening to why the factory needs closing down, why we will continue to be here until the factory shuts.
And have the community been supporting the cause? How have they been doing that?
Yeah, it's been mostly the Muslim community have come out, and they have provided us with everything from hot meals to hot water to wash, towels, bedding, tarpaulins, blow-up mats to sleep on. They've replaced sleeping bags that the police have taken. They have gone out and got hot drinks for us. They've also replaced medications. And in fact, they're on call. If there's anything we need, all we have to do is ring them, and they will bring stuff. They've got charger cables and
everything you need, basically.
Everything we need, but it's really difficult to thank them enough, because I think without their support, I don't know how we'd have survived. First, the police brutality, and also the fact that all of our stuff was taken, and then they came and replaced it all. They've been absolutely amazing. They've done Friday prayers here. In fact, they've come here every night and done Maghreb prayers, the evening prayers here, which has got everybody, everybody's joined in, and it's created a sense of community and unity, and we can talk to people that are, counsellors who come along and stuff. So it's really important that we just keep talking to people and keep bringing them here so they can get to know us and see that, it's not about being arrested. This is about shutting this toxic Israeli arms factory down, because even while we've been here, 4 people have actually been murdered by drones. 4 Palestinians have died by drones. 8 Palestinians in all in the 5 days since we've been here have been killed. And five of those have been killed by drones, the very drones that are made here.
Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down!
Shut Elbit down!
Shut
Shut
Elbit down!
Elbit down! Meet you.
So I'm talking to your eyes or the camera?
Either way, whichever you prefer. I'm going to keep looking at the camera because I've got to check that it's still in the right position, but you can look wherever is most comfortable for you.
Yep.
So it's AD.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And you have a connection to the campaign, is that correct?
We've been involved for a long time working against this company. This is Elbit Systems. It's Israel's largest private weapons manufacturer. They have 10 sites altogether in England, and we were involved heavily in a campaign that was to shut the Elbit factory down in Oldham, and we were doing it for 5 years. We came in from Manchester, many people from Oldham, many people from around the north. We just didn't want to have the biggest gun runners in town building their weapons on these shores, and let alone any other shores. Frankly, I was in Gaza for 2 years. I was a teacher in the university. 2 of my students were murdered by Israel. One of them, by then, she'd had 2 little babies, her mother-in-law and husband all killed with 1 bomb. And I was campaigning against the Elbit that make most of the drones. She was killed by a drone. These drones are massacring people on the other side of the world, and I met the families of so many people that have been killed. I taught a family of 29 that lost 29 members of their extended family in 3 days by Israeli bombing. 29 members of their extended family were murdered in 3 days, the Samuni family. And I was going there, and there was young kids just taking me to teach them, and I didn't see a parent a lot of the time because their parents had been killed. They were bombed, rounded up, put in one house, and then they bombed that house. That's the story of Gaza, but there's the rest of Palestine that Israel has murdered a record number in the last 15 years. Just this last few months, 109 have already been killed so far this year in the West Bank, and that's occupied territory. I mean, this is like, they're building weapons that we know they're using on the civilian population, and the worst thing for me is that I know the families that are left behind. We used to go to the grieving tents. I would go to the intensive care units in the hospitals in Gaza, where you had people coming in one by one, whether it's kids, elderly, whatever, from an Israeli bombing. They are continuously imprisoning, bombarding and occupying an entire population, the Palestinian population, which is mostly kids. And believe me, their parents grieve like our parents grieve. It's very real. We went to one house, and the mother, we just heard upstairs making noises because she'd broken down after her second son was killed. The father said he just takes care of her now. That's all that's left. And when you see what's left behind, and the screaming and the crying at the intensive care units, the grieving tents where you pay respects to the parents, this is what these weapons are doing, and they know that they're doing that. They've had weapons licenses. This one has, so is the one in Shenstone, so is the one in Oldham. It's all there, but they try and claim, oh no, we're not selling to Israel. They produce the parts, they put the parts together, and not only that, but they have had weapons licenses to use in Israel, and it's an Israeli company that tests its weapons on the civilian population. That's how they sell them. They say field tested. That's how, so massacring people increases their stock and increases the quality of their product. Why don't you make something that helps people? Why make these horrific weapons? It's a big bomb factory right here in the middle of Leicester. You're not doing anything about it when they're using them to kill kids and making money off of it. How can you do that? This is insane. This is insanity. And if there's a gunrun at the side of the street selling to known criminals, you're putting them in prison. So what about when they're selling weapons, making weapons of mass destruction, testing them on a population of mostly kids, and then selling them to the highest bidder, to the biggest brutes in the world, by the way, for lots of other horrible stuff that's going on? And you wonder why it all comes back on us. Stop it. Yeah. It's disgusting. It's insane. And the money they're making is off the scale. They're billionaires, a lot of these characters. And yet look at what they're doing to the world. It's disgusting. And I saw those mothers screaming and crying. If anyone else was in those hospitals like I was, I swear to God, they'd be right here. Even if these guys trying to secure the area had seen what I'd seen of what happened to the families afterwards, they would be here trying to shut it down. Because it's real. The horror is real. What happens to those families is real. The heartache every day is real. And I saw it up close. So don't anyone tell me that that's not going on, and it is. And then they're known. They're selling them to known mass murderers. That's what they're doing. That's the criminality. So we put a stop to it. And of course, when the government does nothing, people have always done something. And that's the bottom line. That's throughout history. They'll tell you otherwise, but no, it's never a gift from people in suits. It's always the people that have changed anything. Whether it's the weekend, workers' rights, women's rights, all of the other social security and welfare that we get has been worked for, because we had none of that. We just had kids working in the coal mines for 18 hours until we fought back. People have to unite and work together, because the government won't give you anything. They'll just start colluding with the worst arms dealers just to make a bit of extra money, so they got their kids to eat and a bit of offshore money in Panama. This is what their life is. They've got about 4 houses in London, these characters have. They're not on our side. You need to fight all that nonsense and actually get a bit of justice in the world, and that's what we're trying to do here.
So successful in shutting down the factory in Oldham and in the one in Shenstone?
We shut down the one in Oldham, and that was after a 5-year campaign, and eventually it was made untenable. And yes, people did go in and smash those weapons up. It's the same way as rounding up weapons in Brazil when you want to stop criminality. People did. They took it upon themselves to say, you're not going to use those weapons, even if I just save one life. And they did it, and that was great, and there was local community support, and we shut it down in Oldham. So of course we're going to shut it down. They also shut down the office in London, the main Elbit office. Elbit owns UAV systems. This is this is what UAV tactical system. This is a subsidiary. It's a subsidiary in Oldham, and we shut it down. They're selling up, and that was a wonderful victory, and it shows that we can do it. It shows that people do care as well. Finally, people care about people getting bombed. Finally, and they understood what they're going through, and that's what's so important.
And can you make any comments about what's been happening here over the last few days? The behaviour of the protesters, the behaviour of the police?
Protesters have been absolutely fine. Protesters have been protesting. We've been taking action here because these are the criminals. Elbit are the criminals. The police were ridiculously aggressive 2 days ago. We know that's what they do. But they was disgusting. They were pushing everyone, punching people, pushing them off for doing this here, which is a camp. at an arms factory. And they took all the tents away. Now they've said that no one can have any tents or you get arrested. This is a protest camp at one of the worst arms companies in the whole world.
It seems to me there's somebody who's clearly so well informed and passionate about this that you might have an opinion on, and I'm not suggesting that we slander or say anything unpleasant about anyone, but about the fact that this is happening and will continue to happen during the course of the King's coronation, and this feels like this might be a place where people could be to make a difference rather than sitting and watching a celebration that might not have any bearing on their lives, really.
Well, if you look at the amount of people that are now affected by the cuts, and people are living in poverty, people are in massive debt, people are going to food banks at record levels, and then we spend, what, 4.5 million, is it, something like that, on a coronation? No one is directly affected by that. Everybody is sinking into poverty, and then you see the police presence here, the amount of investment in the police to protect a known arms, the worst arms dealer in the world. And actually Israel is an apartheid state according to Amnesty International now.
Yes.
It's a crime against humanity what they're doing to the Palestinians. It's the longest running military occupation in modern history. And all the police there, they're working for Israel here. And they get it, and loads of money's being invested in that to protect from the worst bomb factories and weapons companies. This is a drone factory. This is disgusting. Of course it's disgusting. The money is obscene they're spending on a coronation when people are destitute in England and the poverty is growing up in England and people haven't got even enough food. People are going hungry. People are getting pneumonia. Young kids are. They're not eating. Kids aren't. They're embarrassed to ask their mum. That's the story in England. Not that we should be spending 4.5 million to protect for a coronation.
Yeah, to distract everyone.
Of course. Yeah. And then the same is true for here. Spending all this money on the cops here to protect these weapons companies. And the weapons, people don't see the end result of those weapons. Where is the final footprint of those weapons? The house that's been destroyed, the screaming mother outside, someone going through the rubble trying to find a picture of their husband. That is the end result of these. And now you're spending millions on a coronation when people are destitute in England, and you're spending millions on police to protect these weapons companies when all that money could be invested in people's health and community and youth. All that stuff, and to alleviate just some of the problems with all the cuts that they've done to social services and all the other things that they're trying to do to squeeze this country to the ground while a load of guys in suits get to live very happily at the top and very luxuriously indeed. That's disgraceful in my opinion. So
one final one then, sorry to keep you for so long, but is there a message you'd like to send to people who empathise with what's being said here and the sentiments that we're expressing?
My message to people out there is that you can do something. We closed down an enormous weapons company in Oldham that we knew was making weapons for known bombers and terrorists, the Israeli government and the killing of Palestinian people. If you want to take action about anything, you can do it. And if you just get enough people together and work enough together with other people, encourage people, you can do it. And it's the only way change has ever happened. And it feels good because you're actually doing something about what we all know is a problem and what we're all sick of. So you can get out, you can do something, and that's exactly what everybody here is doing. People are going through rain or shine to say, we're not accepting a massive bomb factory, one of the worst drone companies in the world here, developing their weapons on a civilian population of mostly kids in Palestine. We're not going to accept it. Take action. Come to here. If you want to make a starting point, come here and be with people that are actually selfless, that are doing something for others, because these money-making murder machines here are just purely only interested in the dollar for death, and we've come to stop it, and that's a good thing, and you can do it too. And everybody, I'd say, come to UAV Tactical Systems in Leicester, Meridian East, just off the main road there. It's actually a great bunch of people taking action in order to stop these weapons being built, and that goes for anything. But if you want to protest against all the other inequalities that we've got in this country and all the cuts that have taken place to services, to healthcare,
PTSD
to transport,
bill, any
exactly,
of it, yeah.
Education, then you can do something about it. But it involves sometimes a little bit of self-sacrifice. But I'll tell you what I would say is when you do it, you feel a lot more connected and you feel a lot more like you can actually do something about this. Because you get worse, you get headaches when you feel totally disempowered.
Yes.
But they're trying to make us disempowered. They're trying to get in our heads we can't do anything. You can do something. Believe me, we shut down a whole big weapons company in Oldham after 5 years. And that is a big deal. And it just took a lot of normal people coming together. So you can do it too. Come to the camp here, come to the siege, and you'll learn all about it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.